Welcome to Bondcast James Bondcast, the only show that dedicates itself to the critical and comical dissection of every movie in Ian Fleming's 007 film series once a month for 24 consecutive months, where we will be discussing one James Bond film per month in chronological order, leading up to the eventual release of the 25th entry in the James Bond series, which as of this date still is unnamed. My name is Matt McGregor, and today's episode will be focused on Live and Let Die, the 8th entry in the 007 series, and the first to star Roger Moore, who will go on to play 007 6 more times after this film. So let's get used to him. At 45, he is also the oldest Bond to date. I am, of course, joined by my two Bond-obsessed co-hosts, Harris McCabe.
Hi, Matt. You're getting much better at reading.
And Colin Shaw.
Hello, I'm here and I'm ready.
We're also joined by our lovely producer-engineer, who is back, C-Rock. What's up, dude?
Yo, what up? That was a great intro.
Hey, thanks.
Hey, did you see this movie?
Hell no.
Should have held out on that. Should have waited for later. I blew it.
So we're talking about Live and Let Die. The year is 1973. Mm-hmm. Sean Connery is no more. He did Diamonds Are Forever, and did they ask him back for this one? I think they
declined.
did.
He declined like a big.
They offered him
money.
like $5 million.
$5 million.
Yeah, which
and
is a
by
lot.
the way, the budget on this movie was $7 million, I think. So
they
were willing to pay a lot more to have Connery in the driver's seat.
Well, it was $5 million for 7 movies, right?
Yeah, it was $5 million to sign his contract. But just to let you know what he was gonna, he was gonna take a considerable chunk out of their total budget.
He was like, "Go fuck yourselves."
I enjoy it because that might be the last time we get to do it.
No, not according to me.
I feel I think we should have the license to use the Connery accent anytime.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
that should be our own license to kill.
I feel like you guys should
license to kill jokes. That's
start working on your Roger Moore accents. And maybe we can segue.
License to kill the accent. License to kill any accent we feel that we need to kill, just like James Bond would do if he was an accent murderer.
He wouldn't think twice about killing jokes. He does many in this movie.
Yeah, he does jokes.
Speaking of murdering jokes, let's move on.
All right. So our first thing we always talk about is the gun barrel sequence. I mean, all I have is that, hey, it's Roger Moore.
Yeah.
You can tell immediately that it's not like Moore is shorter and he's more rigid and he doesn't go down to one knee. You know immediately that it's like not Connery or even Lazenby.
The suit looks different too.
Yeah.
There's a little more bell bottom, I feel like, in the pants.
And no hat, right? He wasn't wearing a hat.
No, he doesn't do the hat.
I think the hat thing is done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I read they dropped the hat. They didn't do the martini for this one because he was different, and they
He drinks like a bourbon or something, right?
Bourbon, yeah. And cigars instead of cigarettes.
Right.
Yeah, when they transitioned to Lazenby, I still don't know.
No one knows.
They made a big thing out of it, and they drew attention to it in all these different ways. And it looks like they sort of learned their lesson with Moore, and they don't call attention to the fact that it's a new actor in any obvious ways, but they sort of made him his own kind of Bond, and they they weren't trying to simulate Connery so much as just find a new guy.
Yeah, I did notice that whereas in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, they kind of made a big deal about introducing the new actor. He speaks to the camera, whatever. This one, they just kind of sneak him in there. Like, no big whoop, just, here I am.
Yeah.
I'm Bond.
New guy, not the same.
Well, we first see him in bed, right?
Yeah, but
With
not
the
in the
one.
cold open at all.
No, he's not in the cold open.
Yeah, let's talk about the cold
is
open.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about this cold open.
Oh, okay.
I think
let's go
right to it.
we're past gun barrel. Let's do it.
The best part of the cold open, the guy at the New Orleans funeral, he's watching the New Orleans funeral, turns to the guy next to him, whose funeral is it? The guy just looks at him and goes, it's yours.
So the cold open is basically a series of assassinations in 3 exotic locations. One is a guy gets killed at the UN in New York. The other is a New Orleans
I love that he
funeral
dies
parade.
and no one reacts. They're just like,
yeah, killed
typical
literally
UN
in the middle of a
business
UN
here.
meeting. Yeah.
Another guy fell asleep, of course.
And then the last one is this over-the-top voodoo ceremony in San Monique, which is actually just like sort of a stand-in for Haiti. It's a fictitious island country
That
in
one
the
would be
Caribbean.
cooler if the snake bite thing didn't look so fake.
Yeah, he basically
read
just
that that
jabs
guy-
the snake in the guy's
I read
face.
that the guy actually did faint because he was afraid of snakes.
Yeah.
But
So,
it doesn't look like he's being bitten by a snake.
so what did we think of this cold open?
It's awesome.
It's
I'm
awesome,
a little I got a lot of questions about how you plug in a red audio cord into a translator box and then it does the kill noise in someone's ear.
Well, maybe we should ask our audio expert, Chris.
Can you kill someone with sound?
So, Chris, let me describe the scenario. They're at the UN, and you know how you have all those translator headphones for all the guys at the UN, and somebody goes in and takes the British
This cord,
guy's
yeah.
audio jack and jacks in their own little super powered space equipment to jack his headset, and then blasts audio waves into his ear until
sends like a
he
high
dies.
pitch.
He
It's terrible.
clutches and dies. Yeah.
That's like a nightmare.
And he's
It reminds me of the Brown Note.
It is the brown note, except with more dire
Like
consequences.
a brain
yeah.
note.
Yeah.
Is the brown note real?
I don't think so.
no, it's
Why
But
not?
it's fun to talk about.
Um,
Wait, so that's horrible. They just blasted him.
yeah, they
until-
got him.
Can we
Right at the
explain
middle
what
of
the brown
UN,
note is?
Someone was talking too.
the
they were
brown note
saying-
is just like that, except instead of your brain exploding, it's your ass.
It's
Yes,
poop.
you poop.
Poop.
Yeah, that is the brown note. So you guys both love the cold open scene. I thought it was like a B minus. I thought it
Doesn't
was.
sound that good.
I thought it was not bad, but not one of those.
The New Orleans funeral part makes it.
The New Orleans. I agree with that.
Yeah.
If they were all
The
as
other
good,
two parts were lame, but you're right.
if
that
they were
part
all
is
as good
best.
as the New Orleans funeral part, it would be an A++. But because they had the other two kind of lame parts, and there's no Bond in it, and I feel like all my favorite ones have a little bit of Bond in them. So I looked back at the other cold opens. I was like, where does this rank? And I was like, it's good, but it's not like one of the super memorable.
But you didn't
ones.
like the one where the big blonde guy is hunting Bond, and then it turns out it's just some guy they made up to look like Bond.
No,
So
I
it's
actually
like-
did kind of
oh,
like
you
that
did
one.
like
It wasn't one of my favorites, but I mean, it was definitely. I like that better than this.
I read
You like
that.
that better than this?
I like that better than this.
I read that they wanted to do Mardi Gras at first, but then they voted against it because in a previous one of the movies we did already, they did a parade scene. What movie was that?
That was
like very
Thunderball.
similar. It was
Was
Thunderball.
it Thunderball? Yeah,
And it was
yeah, 'cause
wherever they were at.
It wasn't.
It was like
it
the
wasn't Mardi Gras,
of
but
that
it was the
place.
same festival.
Same
it was
kind of
like
thing, yeah.
Mardi Gras in New Orleans, but this was like, was it Rio or something? I can't remember. Wherever it was.
Our memories are terrible.
With where the guy had the
It was what-
island with the shark
Did you guys
tank.
just watch this?
all of these
Months ago.
all of these South American
really?
countries have a celebration every February, and this is or
it
March.
is Mardi Gras. It's just wherever that specific place was, they don't call
Yeah.
it Mardi Gras.
Right.
So they didn't want to do
Carni-
that
or-
again.
Well, Carnival.
My
but they
point
don't call
is
it that
the
either there.
funeral
Right.
procession
Yeah.
that they did was a great choice. It
Yeah,
was like
absolutely.
interesting to watch and cool.
Local
and-
flavor.
So
and,
let me ask you this:
Oh,
are
but
all
also
the people
incredibly far fetched
in on it?
Yeah, that's my thing too. Is like
That's
every
how
every
big
single person.
Mr. Big's operation is.
Mr. Big has
Basically,
a
like,
big
if
operation.
if you're black, there's like a 70% chance you work for Mr. Big.
Yes.
That is one of the disturbing implications of this movie. Is that like in this movie, in
That
the world of
makes-
this movie, all the black people in the world work for the same criminal
Not all the black
organization.
people, but
Like 90,
overwhelmingly most of them.
Most of them.
Except for that one CIA guy, right?
Yeah, the one CIA
the
guy
one- it was
who
basically
gets
the one
killed
CIA guy
in
who
the
was
same
like-
way. He
Yep.
also is like, whose funeral is this?
Yeah.
And then the guy doesn't even say it that time. He's just
He just
like,
laughs.
Yeah, he's just like, you don't
You
even
know what's coming.
You're like the one black guy here who doesn't work for Mr. Big. You're
All right.
gonna die.
All right, let's get to
All
the
right,
reason
so-
why
so-
we're all
so-
here.
So
Yeah, how does the movie
cold
start?
open, and now we're in the main titles.
The main titles and the song. This is
song.
arguably one of the best James Bond songs.
Easily
Yeah.
top 5.
Easily top
Maybe
5.
top 3. Maybe
Coming
number
off
1.
of, oh no, I'm sorry, it was 2 films ago now at this point. Like the worst. Like they just didn't have a song for Honor, Majesty,
Yeah.
Secret Service.
And then we had Diamonds Are
Diamonds
Forever,
Are
which
Forever was pretty
yeah.
strong, yeah. But this one, I think, changes the game. It like opens it up a little bit. This is a little
the
more
first
rock
rock
and
song.
roll, yeah.
Well, for some context, this is like the song was by Wings.
Wasn't there a dig at the Beatles in an earlier movie?
Yeah.
And
In,
now
yeah.
they get it.
In Goldfinger,
Yeah.
it says drinking Dom Perignon at the wrong temperature is like listening to the Beatles without earmuffs or something like that.
Yes, he was definitely knocking
And
the
now
Beatles.
and now the Beatles are making them mad money.
But this was the biggest Bond hit so far. It charted at number 2 in the U.S., and it was actually Wings' first success after 2 poorly received albums. They weren't a successful band yet, but keep in mind that this is 1973. The Beatles broke up in 1970. Paul McCartney is literally still one of the biggest stars in the world and easily the biggest name that's been involved in the Bond franchise.
to this point.
Yeah, so he sort of established that
a band
hugely
like that
famous
saying,
singer.
saying that they're unsuccessful so far is like kind of unfair. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I guess.
yeah, what do you
Well,
use to
you
measure
know,
success?
they
when
made- they
you're,
actually-
when you're Paul McCartney,
Right, exactly.
At that point, in
Well,
his
they
life.
actually made Band on the Run later in 1973 and became
Good
a
song.
very successful band. But until that album came out, they had been as struggling as Paul McCartney possibly ever could, I guess.
Going along, playing to the song, what did you think of the opening title sequence, the images?
It's Mo Binder again doing our titles. It's kind of nice imagery with the women's faces double exposed over a flame. I thought
The
it was a really cool moment when when the main title comes up and the woman's face turns into a skull and kind of a flaming skull.
Yeah, flaming skulls always work.
They seemed a little bit. I feel like they're getting a little bit formulaic, but I thought it was sort of an interesting twist on the standard. Once again, it's like the cold open. I thought it was good, not great. And honestly, the song itself is a solid rocker, but I hate the little reggae break in the middle. I don't know what that's all about, but you know.
Matter to you.
I like that part.
Yeah. Well,
When you
I
got a
guess-
job to do.
I guess it's everyone's got their own opinion.
Oh, that song is so good.
Yeah.
Guns N' Roses.
But they know,
covered it.
but they know the hook though. They know the hook, and they use it excessively in this. I say excessively, but I wouldn't take a single one of the uses away. It was every time it
They
comes
use
in.
it like 3 times, yeah.
It's. I mean, they basically
really
use
good,
it.
yeah.
It almost supplants the Bond theme as like the killer. You know, here's some action happening.
But they use
here.
the Bond theme too.
They
I thought
do,
the,
obviously,
I
but
thought the way
because it's a Bond
that-
movie, but-
Yeah, I thought the way they did that was really good. It's like every time they're like, okay, like we're doing a scene and like we're gonna tell them, you know, they're watching this scene now by
Yeah.
just giving them the theme music.
Yeah,
Either
there was a
the
lot
theme
of
the,
like
the movie or the
prompts,
theme of
music
Bond.
prompts.
Yeah,
and-
Right.
Yeah, musical prompting. Yeah, they did a lot of it. I thought it worked though.
All right, let's get to the introduction of James Bond himself, Roger Moore.
Sir Roger Moore.
Sir Roger Moore. What, at 45 years old, he's looking good in this movie.
Yeah, he actually is.
He looks younger than
considering
45.
he was younger than Connery. I mean, older than Connery was at this point. So it's and he's
Now,
also
to put things into perspective, I read that George Lazenby was 29 in his movie,
Yep.
and now he's 45. That's crazy.
and he's basically at this point in his career, he's a TV actor. He's done a lot of shows. He's best known for being Simon Templar on The Saint, which is sort of a similar espionage-themed TV show. He was actually considered for Bond several times when they were talking about recasting in earlier movies.
The Val Kilmer movie's based on that show, right?
Yes, that's true. Yep. So it is. He sort of had this experience as like this British spy-ish kind of guy, although definitely, you know, very much in the TV world and not really. Nobody knew, hey, can this guy carry a movie? But if you're getting into a Bond franchise, maybe the important thing isn't can you carry a movie? It's can you not drive people away from this thing that they already like.
But I
I
think
read
he
that it was like
killed it.
his second favorite or something. his own personal
of his own Bond
ones.
movies.
Yeah,
that makes
What
sense.
was his favorite?
It's
it's Spy Who Loved Me.
It's a solid Roger Moore outing. It avoids some of the humor and cheesiness that I think marred some of the other ones.
But
There's some
there's a
cheesy-
particular character in this movie that is all there for humor and cheesiness, and he really like takes it way over the top.
Felix Leiter.
No, damn it.
We'll get to him.
No, I'm talking
There
about
is a
Sheriff
literal
Pepper.
Felix Leiter in this movie,
Yeah.
though.
Oh, I love that joke. That's a good joke. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like Roger Moore. If we want to get into it a little bit, do we want to talk about him now?
Yeah, we're here.
Let's do
We're-
it. All right. I think he's lacking that wow factor. He's like handsome and charming enough. He's British enough. But for me, it was sort of like Connery always felt like he was dangerous. Like he was playing it cool, but deep down he really wanted to knock somebody's teeth out all the time.
Yeah.
It's a
And
Bond podcast. There's a plane.
There's
going
a
over.
there's a
helicopter.
helicopter circling us right now.
Yeah, actually, Roger Moore was going to fly in for this,
Yeah.
but he just heard what you said. About
And
We're
and he
recording
died
live
several
from my
months ago.
living room, so-
He was so upset by it. No, but James Bond always felt like with Connery, it felt like the disguise was like he was this nice, polite British guy who was really disguising this dangerous dude. For Roger Moore, it always feels like he is this nice, polite British guy who will pretend to be
Who's
a
just
badass.
in the wrong place at the wrong
like
time.
he'll pretend to be. He's pretending to be a tough guy rather than the other way around. A tough guy pretending to be suave. You know.
Yeah, I see it as more like he's a tough guy, but he doesn't want to be. He wants to like just chill, but you know
He wants to fuck. Like every chance he gets in this movie, he's like, "Oh, what's up, baby?"
Yeah, and you know that is something we've seen from James Bond before.
Well, that has remained consistent. Yes.
Yeah, his rapey vibe is like up in this
His
one.
perpetual massive hard-on is
Yeah.
alive and well, regardless of what
I
actor
feel
is
like he
playing.
wasn't terribly forceful at any point.
I think maybe the times are changing. I don't know.
He
Yeah.
literally tricks a girl into banging him. in
Well,
this
no,
movie.
yeah, he did do
Oh,
that.
but she was
a bad guy again.
She
though,
was
so-
a bad guy though. He's got to play games with.
She was a
she's-
bad guy.
Yeah,
It's different.
it's
Yeah.
You know what though? He did admit it to her. He owned
Yeah,
up.
he came
fessed
clean.
up.
Yeah.
Wait, what is it? What is it? She says she's
What
like,
is the line?
she's like, you won't kill me now after we did that.
After what
He's
we've
like,
just
I certainly
done.
wouldn't have killed you before. Is that what he said?
Yeah. After they have sex, she's like,
That's,
you can't kill me now after what we've just done.
All right. Well, now that we're talking about girls, why
Wanna
don't we
talk
move
about
on
Rosie?
to the girls? There's
Well, the first one is in this first scene that
Basically-
we got lost on.
We
See James Bond in his own flat. And
Oh yeah, we're in
he's
James
like,
Bond's apartment, which
he's
is a
having
rarity.
sex with a woman
Oh,
who
yeah, I
we
forgot
find
about
out
this
was from
sequence.
some
This is great.
Italian job.
Yeah, M shows up. That is kind of unusual. Probably
It's
worth
weird.
noting that we open in Bond's apartment and
well,
M,
that
M
was
just
one of the
rings
things
the
I read
doorbell.
that, like they did this on purpose to make it different from the other ones. Yeah.
and M shows up in his apartment rather than doing the whole office, and Moneypenny shows up later.
Oh
and
yeah,
it's like this
Moneypenny.
convention in
And
Bond's
then
apartment.
Moneypenny hides the woman in his closet.
In the middle of the night, the early hours of the morning, all these people just come into Bond's house to debrief him.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's got this chick in bed. And what does M say? He's like, the
He's
Italians.
debriefing her.
Yeah.
Oh, the Italians are missing their agent.
Yeah, the Italians really love the job you did in that
Aye, aye.
last thing. They're wondering where this agent is, and he's like, "Oh, I haven't any idea." And, and of course,
she's
he's
like,
hiding in his closet.
tiptoeing around in the bedroom in the closet. And so then she's like, go stay in the closet. Don't go in there, M. And then, he also gives M coffee from a cappuccino machine that he has like just in his kitchen, which is like a gadget. Actually.
Which M points out like that's the weirdest thing ever. He's like, all it does is make coffee because nobody had ever seen that before.
Yeah, and
I
now
read that-
now I feel like that's like what like you would see that in like a DIY hipster house.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
James Bond was the first hipster. He's like, "What? You don't have one of these?"
Yeah. Our espresso machine, I built it into the counter. I watched some YouTube videos on how to like install it. It's from Italy.
I can't have it any other way now.
I don't.
I really just
I use these special beans I get from.
Store bought
We-
coffee.
we get the
literally
picture,
makes me
right?
nauseous.
But yeah, at the time, I
Yeah.
imagine that this was like a
It says that like that was like a wonder, a marvel,
a modern marvel.
modern marvel.
All right, so he's
It's
banging
a
some chick when we
machine that
open
makes
up,
coffee.
but we actually have basically two main Bond girls in this story. The first is Rosie Carver, who's played by Gloria Hendry.
She's my one. Well, I have several negatives about this movie, but she's like the main negative that I have. I think her acting performance is not good.
She is,
She reminds me of. Have you ever seen Temple of Doom? You know how the woman in that spends like half the movie just screaming?
Yeah.
Yeah, the way she really goes over the top for her like fear reactions is like
Kate Capshaw?
Yes.
Yes.
But I mean, a part of her character is that we eventually realize she's working for the bad guy.
So here's my problem, and I agree with you 100% that she is not a great actress and has like zero chemistry with Moore. My thing is, she's like, I was hoping, because I had like hope, because when James Bond first he meets her, she's pretending to be his wife. She's his liaison agent in San Monique. And he tries to immediately seduce her, and she's like, I got my own bedroom, pal. You're not getting into my pants. And I was like, oh, good. This woman's actually going to like push back on him a little, stand up for himself. And then she immediately sees like a voodoo hat in her bed.
A tiny hat.
She freaks out, and she's like, please don't spend any time away from me. We have to sleep together now.
And he's like, okay.
And she freaks out over a dead snake, and she's like the worst secret agent. She's supposed to be a secret agent. She's armed. She's supposed to be competent.
She is supposed to be inexperienced, though, because she's from a fictional country where the other secret agent just got killed.
Right. She said it's only her second job or something.
Yeah. Right. And she's supposed to not be great. But then we find out that she's a double agent. She's actually working for the main bad guy. And I thought, oh, maybe it's all an act. But it isn't, because she's actually a really shitty double agent, too. Yes. She's just bad at everything.
Right.
And it's so disappointing because...
Including acting.
Yeah, including acting, yeah.
Even when she runs off, like... I don't know, she just takes her time. She kind of does this, yeah.
She's just like this hysterical liability for whoever she's working for at any time, which is a little disappointing.
Yeah.
Our other Bond girl...
She's good looking and fit.
Yeah, she is.
Her body was tight. Yeah,
exactly. And no, she
was
seriously
very toned.
She looked like she could beat the crap out of some dudes. That's why I was hoping she'd be competent, because
that would have been cool.
She would have like totally ripped some people's heads off.
Yeah.
She was totally ripped. And
I like how she had a wig that was an afro that was like about like
a bigger
20% bigger than the actual afro that she had.
Just like Mr. Big's wig later on in the movie. Same thing.
Mr. Big to me, we gotta.
Well, wait, we'll get to it.
Okay, yeah.
But okay, so Bond takes Rosie Carver on a boat. Do you remember whose boat it was?
Quarrel Jr.
Quarrel Jr. Are we covering Quarrel Jr. as one of the Bond girls? I'm okay with
No, but I think we need to segue into Quarrel Jr. just
Quarrel Jr. is great.
segment.
Quarrel Jr. does not get killed in a stupid way.
He doesn't get eaten by a fake dragon.
There's
James
even a
Bond
part
out.
where, like, later on, you could see that he's wearing a red
shirt.
underneath.
It's probably
They
his
make
dad's
him look
shirt.
the same. Yeah, they make him look the same.
So if any of you are completely baffled by what the hell we're talking about, go back and listen to our Dr. No podcast, where James Bond had a sidekick named Quarrel, who was easily one of my favorite sidekicks ever, who just wanted to drink rum and chill out all the time, but got killed by a fire-breathing dragon that was actually a slow-moving all-terrain vehicle with a flamethrower on it.
You hated that, right? That was
Well, he could have gotten out of the way.
Yeah, he could have avoided. Quarrel's death was so avoidable. We don't know how much rum he had in his system. He did go up like a Roman candle when
I
he got
said that to
lit
my
on
roommate,
fire.
and he's like, it's moving so slow. Why doesn't he get out of the way?
But his son was far more competent. There's actually a reason why his son is in this movie. Did you guys know
Yes,
that?
it's because the script is from the novel that came before Dr. No.
So in the original novel, there was... this
Quarrel
was actually
a recurring character.
Live and Let Die was the second Bond novel after Casino Royale, and Quarrel became a recurring character who originated in this novel and then was later in Dr. No. And since he had been killed off in the Dr. No before this movie, they decided to just make it Quarrel Jr. It's also kind of interesting to me that Quarrel Jr. looks about the same age as Quarrel did, even though James Bond is about the same, roughly similar in age.
Age is not a thing in this
He looks
movie.
like in the movie he might be older than
He might be
Quarrel
older than
was
the original
in
Quarrel
original.
was. Yeah, exactly. In the movie that came out 9 years earlier or
Yeah.
whatever. So, all very funny.
Getting
there's
back
also-
to the
yeah,
girls.
Like also, the villain Kananga, he's like, if you lose your powers, then like your mother did. So it's
we
like
should probably talk about the girl before we start talking about the powers.
That doesn't make sense yet.
no,
Sorry.
but I know what you're getting at, and we'll talk about that.
That doesn't make
But
sense.
segueing into that, let's talk about Solitaire. That's her name, right?
She's
Yep.
great, yes.
And she is
Miss
played
Solitaire.
by Jane Seymour,
Jane
one Dr.
Seymour,
Quinn,
at 22
medicine
years
woman.
old.
Dr.
Yes.
Quinn, medicine woman. That's
Yep.
it.
22-year-old Jane Seymour.
I don't know if she was in anything else. All I know her as Dr. Quinn, medicine woman, which she was pretty blazing in. She was also in
Wedding Crashers.
Oh yeah, Wedding
That's
Crashers.
right.
She was also
Call me
in.
Kitty Cat.
She posed in Playboy just this year in February
This
at,
year?
at
Really?
the age of 67. So still
Hot.
So
still
cop
getting it
that.
done. Yeah, and but we're seeing her at 22 here. Very attractive.
Very.
Yes.
She plays a much as her name paves way for her. She is a card. What do you call it? Tarot card reader.
Yeah.
And she seems to have almost a supernatural gift.
She has the gift.
She has the
can see
gift
the
of
future.
like foresight. Yeah, she can see what's going to happen.
And even like now sight, because she can see what's happening. She knows where
in
people
other places,
are at specific moments.
She past, present, and future.
And she had pretty kick-ass outfits.
Oh, I would say better. I
Almost
would say
like-
that doesn't describe it well enough.
She has like a Queen Amidala thing going
Oh,
on at
yeah.
one point.
She got some crazy
one-
outfits.
That chair,
and
that,
the chair
becomes
her chair
her
is
like
the greatest.
overcoat.
Can we talk about
And
the chair for a second?
She
I was
has
gonna
the
save
like
it for-
the third eye bendy thing with like the
It's
little
like a snake.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a snake.
I was going to
yeah.
save this for the gadgets section, but that was the one thing in this movie that totally blew my freaking mind. Was
The
that
chair?
chair?
Yeah.
her
Oh, that
She's
chair
got like
was awesome.
She has a tarot card reading chair with like the table set up in front of it, and she can put her cards out. And she's got this very elaborate outfit that seems to extend out around her, like sort of like you'd see in like iconography of like the Virgin Mary or something. It's like this whole thing. It's very elaborate and bejeweled. And then when she gets done with the tarot card reading, she just opens the thing up, and the table slides out of the way, and the whole outfit just comes off of her, the hat and everything.
It splits open like a doorway.
So it's not
And
like
she's just wearing like a
it's
little
not-
red dress.
It looks like an elaborate outfit, and it actually is just this ridiculous gadget tarot reading chair, a techno chair.
That chair is awesome.
It is pretty cool.
I mean, yes, it's effeminate, but would you want to sit in it?
Oh hell
Yes.
yeah!
The answer is
And
yes.
get my
Yes.
picture
License
taken
to
in it.
sit?
Yes.
License
I mean,
to sit. Is she-
License to
Bond
sit,
sat in it.
for
Bond
sure.
didn't go all the way and have like the dress
Yeah.
compartments
Oh.
lock into him. But
Okay,
he
when Bond
did-
sits in it, I have a question about this. All right, so jumping ahead, when Bond meets her, he picks a card out of her tarot deck, and it of course is the Lovers, insinuating that Bond is like DTF, I guess.
and
Yes.
then believe it or not, this actually works. She's like, oh well, if it's in the cards, like
Yeah.
this
well,
convinces
it's not.
her.
It's because it happens multiple times.
Yeah, well, then she draws it later herself. But then when Bond meets her again, he asks her to draw a card, and she draws the Lovers, and then they have sex. But as they start making out, Bond drops all the cards, and the entire deck is the Lovers. Where did he get those?
He spent $800 on tarot decks.
worth
he
it.
could- yeah, totally
Because
Totally
there's,
worth it.
I think,
Hey,
I think there's
if
like
it didn't work, he
70
probably would've been
something
pissed,
cards
but-
in a tarot
He
deck.
would have had to have known that she picked the lover's card on her own in a separate scene when he was not there. He knew that she picked it once, or he picked it, right?
He picked it the first time. Then she picks it herself when he's not around.
When he's not around.
But the bottom
when
line
she's
is
trying to predict
they
his
don't,
future.
They don't sell individual tarot cards anywhere. So he
No,
had to,
no.
he
Yeah,
had
he
to
had
buy
to buy-
several decks, pluck them out
He had to buy like 70 decks of tarot
just
cards.
to try to get in this girl's pants.
of the
that-
same tarot cards.
Is that technically romantic that he like went to?
I guess it
great
is.
lengths?
technically impossible. That's what I'm saying. Where can you find 70 decks of the same tarot cards?
I mean, he
for
is a
sale
spy.
anywhere?
Like he works for
That's true. There's
an
no eBay there. There's no
organization.
Amazon. It's not,
You know, the way same way they give him gadgets, he could say like, "Hey Q, I need
Oh
you to
yeah,
like,
print
yeah.
many
Just
decks.
photo.
They have-
he
they have,
just
like-
gets one, and he's
they
like,
have
photocopy
PAs.
this.
They have PAs that ran all over
they have
town buying
PAs
all the
for that.
tarot decks.
So you think the British government
oh yeah, he had a requisition for
is
this.
paying to make copies of one tarot card?
if it's for the case,
Yeah, they're like, it's kind of weird, but we can do that for you.
is this going to help you at all, Bond? Sure.
I need to have sex with this woman.
For the case.
So just an interesting thing, we've talked about Bond's magic dick before that has had the ability in the past to turn a bad girl good.
That's
and in this case, it actually does something opposite. It depowers this woman who's psychic.
He literally
Once-
sucked the life out of her.
Oh, that's
his
weak.
dick.
Once she takes
yeah.
she takes that magic Bond dick, she can no longer
Yeah,
tell
if
the
you're good at
future.
reading tarot and you're deflowered, you lose the gift.
Also,
according to
in
this
bed,
particular
after,
tarot lore.
after he deflowers her, he is like super cavalier about it in bed afterwards. She's like,
Does he say there's a first time for everybody?
She's like, yeah, she's talking
Yeah.
to him about it. He's like, yeah, first time for everything. Hey, I was gonna get some sleep. I got a big day tomorrow, so if you don't
doesn't
mind,
say
are you
that.
gonna talk all night? That was the
He doesn't.
implication.
No,
of it.
but
He
like
doesn't say
she
that.
seems pretty perturbed about this. She's like worried that this
Yeah,
guy's going
she's
to kill
like,
her
this
because
guy's
she
gonna
lost the
kill
power.
me. Yeah.
yeah.
But then she gets over it pretty quick when she says to Bond, like, "Hey, do we
Yeah.
have time for lesson number 3?"
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever?
He's like,
Yeah,
first
she wants-
lesson. There's no secrets between us. Lesson number 2 is like, I'm gonna protect you in some bullshit way. And then she's like, is there time for lesson number 3? And he's like,
But of course,
just starts unbuttoning the shirt.
that he just put on.
Yeah, that he just
Damn.
put on. Because
yeah. So she's not too upset about losing.
well,
the gift.
if
Well,
you're gonna
in
get
for-
killed and you know that James Bond is not going to get killed, and he wants to try to make you not get killed,
Listen,
you probably got some time to have sex with him.
you know what they say, in for a penny, in for a pound, and she was in for at least 1 pound. Maybe 2.
I didn't know they
get
said
it.
that.
She got 3.
What is that? You guys knew that?
Harris
Don't lie.
is our
It's a
popular
old timey.
And actually,
yeah.
it's really appropriate because that's British pound,
Yeah,
right?
the British pounds.
I'll buy that for $1 or for
All
a
right.
pound.
Oh.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
All right, so we started talking. We've mentioned the bad guy several times. Why don't we talk about him a little?
I was reading, the trivia, and it's like, this is the first Bond to have supernatural themes, and I'm like, it's not supernatural how he's living through all this bullshit and like having sex with all these women that automatically just want to have sex with him. Like, that's not supernatural.
He doesn't age. He turns into different
Doesn't
dudes.
age, yeah.
He has a
His face
jetpack.
and body morphs into different people every
Cool.
so
No one
often.
says anything. It's just like cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, back on track.
let's get to the villain,
villain?
Kananga. Yeah, Dr. Kananga,
Dr.
Fucking
Kananga.
awesome.
played by Yaphet Kotto. Is that
Yeah,
how you say his
Yaphet
name?
Kotto.
This guy's good. He's
Who
bringing
is
a lot to
best
the
known
character.
for Homicide: Life in the Street,
Alien.
Alien, yep.
Oh,
he is that guy.
Midnight Run, and The Running Man. He was
really
one
like
of Arnold
him.
Schwarzenegger's
Buddies.
partners in The Running Man. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Yaphet Kotto's been in some shit. Yeah, him
dope.
and who was
That
it?
guy's cool.
Harry Dean Stanton were the two like janitors
Who's
on
also
the
from
spaceship
Alien.
in Alien. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the janitors, space janitors.
The space janitors in
janitors.
Alien. Yeah, he was excellent. He I feel like he always sounds like he's got a bunch of Kleenex stuffed in his mouth when he's talking, but I don't know why. But he always is very memorable at the very least.
He reminds me of the guy. You know the guy that plays Felix Leiter in Casino Royale?
Yeah.
You know the character he plays in Boardwalk Empire?
Yes.
He reminds me of that character.
Jeffrey Wright.
Jeffrey
in
Wright.
Like a
Boardwalk
really...
Empire. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He talks like this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's also... Well, I don't want to reveal the big secret.
Well, we might as well just get to it.
Okay, well,
but I
there's
was
another
gonna
villain. He's called Mr. Big, and he runs everything in Harlem, including everything. And
Yes, we didn't say what Kananga was. Kananga
Everything.
is the prime minister of San Monique, which is this.
It's an island in the
fictional
Caribbean.
Haitian. It's basically like
it's
he's like
filmed in
Papa Doc.
Jamaica, but yeah.
he's-
They wouldn't call it Jamaica because Bond was already just in Jamaica.
I read he was based
Dr.
on
No.
a historical figure from Haiti.
Papa Doc Duvalier. Yeah,
Yeah.
the famous ruthless dictator.
Yeah.
down there. But there's also this criminal that Colin was talking about,
Mr. Big, who runs Harlem.
Who looks like he's wearing a mask all the time.
He's got an odd face.
He looks
We'll
a
put it
lot.
that way.
He looks a lot like Kananga, but lighter.
He
and
looks
like
like
with
he's
a little
got a
bit more bridge in his nose.
He looks like he's
Yeah.
got a skin disease and a pointy
Yeah.
nose.
Yes.
That's, yeah.
And
But
then
he's
we
a-
find out.
He speaks with a little jive, right? He's
Oh, he
yeah,
speaks
jive
very
talking,
jive.
yeah.
He
Heavy
speaks
jive.
He
There's
speaks
a-
jive to the point that it's a cover for the fact that he maybe doesn't
What does he
talk
say?
like
He
that.
When
says
James
something
Bond
and
goes in
Bond's
and he's
"What's
like-
that?"
He calls James Bond baby a lot. I know that.
No, when James
like-
when he originally meets James Bond, Bond is like, "I'm Bond, James Bond." He's like, "Names are for graveyards, baby."
Yeah,
Right,
names
for
of graveyards, names of tombstones, baby.
But
Take him
he's-
outside and waste them.
Waste him. That's it. And he's like, waste him? Is that good or bad? And I'm like, shut up, Bond. You know what it means.
Names of tombstones, baby.
Wait, so
Take
what-
him outside and
what's
waste
the
them.
reveal?
So the
I wanna
reveal
Mr.
is-
Big is Kananga.
Oh my god!
Which is kind of. I don't understand why they needed the elaborate makeup though, because can't he run both operations? It's not like this is like
No.
where people are gonna look him up on Facebook
The-
and be like,
On
"Hey, this guy looks
LinkedIn.
just like this other guy."
The
You know?
people of
Yeah,
Harlem,
exactly.
the people of Harlem would eventually find out somehow.
I don't know. I don't know.
And also, okay, Mr. Big is really into jive. Kananga is really into voodoo. So in San Monique, he keeps all the people in line because of their like voodoo, religion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in Harlem, he keeps all the people in line because he's a tough talking jive guy.
Yeah, they go heavy in the jive thing too. They've
Yeah,
got
they do.
Felix Leiter uses the phrase "pimp mobile" in this movie.
Yeah.
and there are
Bond gets
several.
called a honky several times.
There are
6 times,
several
yeah.
pimp mobiles in
Is
there.
Oh, and all this stuff
Is
they
there
say
some
about like
platform
as soon as he
shoes,
crosses like
afros.
74th Street to go towards Harlem,
He's
like,
the
you're the only white guy.
there. Yeah. What do they say? It's like trying to follow a cue ball
Yeah.
when they're
And
trying to track
there's
him.
one that's even more like
Wait, I got it. The
Yeah.
taxi driver is
Yeah.
like a jive talking kind of guy also.
Yeah.
So Bond's in a taxi cab going up to Harlem and he's like, like, "Yo, man, you going to Harlem?" And Bond's like, "Yeah, just take me to wherever." And he's like, no, he's like, "Here's $20. I'll tip you $20." He's like, "Man, for $20, I'll take you to a Ku Klux Klan cookout."
and then later when he drops him off at this
guy's ridiculous.
this like dicey Harlem club, he's like, "I hope you make friends easy."
The fillet of soul.
There's one, the CIA agent guy.
The fillet of soul. There's
Yeah,
a couple of
fillet of-
punny. What's the other one? There's another punny name in this.
Filet of Soul is the
Spelled
same
wrong.
place in Harlem as it is in New Orleans.
Yeah, fillet of soul and the occult voodoo shop.
Oh yeah.
Occult, yeah.
Yeah, not a cult, but O space cult.
They're groan-inducing puns here.
Oh, there's another funny one that the CIA agent guy says about how he stands out in Harlem, but I forgot what it is.
But anyway, so basically, Mr. Big, aka Kananga's big plan is he's growing massive amounts of heroin in San Monique, and he's going to use his Mr. Big persona to distribute it for free all over the world to basically run every other drug dealer in the world out of business and then have a monopoly on the drug market.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Goldfinger, but for heroin.
It's a lot like Goldfinger.
Yeah, and he's got the confidence of a supervillain, but I felt like his ideas were stupid.
Did you read? Hey, did you read what it was in the book?
It was like
In the book, he has
gold
Blackbeard's
brashers.
treasure.
So, yeah.
Blackbeard's treasure. I'm going to flood the world markets with Blackbeard's treasure. It will cripple the economy.
So
And I almost wish they had tried that. Or like some combination. It's like, I got heroin, I got Blackbeard's treasure. It's on.
I feel like they probably
Plan,
discussed
what
it.
else do I need?
I got heroin, I got Blackbeard's treasure. I'm taking the
I
world
got this,
down.
I got this wig, and I got an online tutorial on makeup.
I got a wig. I got a fake persona.
So Dr. Kananga is the main villain, but
Yeah.
he comes with a bevy of henchmen.
His henchmen are awesome.
They all have
A
great
huge
names.
guy with one mechanical arm with a claw on the end, who always giggles at everything he says, who is called Teehee.
Teehee.
And then
Because he giggles?
Yeah.
and he lost his arm, but a gator bit his arm off.
Yeah, crocodile.
And later he takes Bond to a gator
Hook status?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then there's
he's
an
got a hook arm.
enormously
There's
fat
a big old fat guy
henchman.
who can't talk good. He has to talk like this.
like this. His
And
name
he's
is
called Whisper. And they are awesome.
boy.
And then there's the Baron Samedi, who's a mythical figure in the voodoo religion, basically like the Lord of the Dead. But it's also he has a guy like
he's a
being this guy.
Well, he's a yeah. So
He's
Baron,
also a henchman.
Baron Samedi is a god of death in the voodoo religion, and we don't really make a distinction between the henchman who's playing Baron Samedi and the actual bear. Like we don't know this. This is
he
another
wears makeup
supernatural.
on his face, and
Yeah.
we see him when he doesn't have makeup.
and
on
most
his
of
face.
his lines are him doing this.
He's amazing. He is one of my all-time favorites.
He's introduced during a live performance,
Mm-hmm.
and I forget Bond explains it to someone or someone explains
No,
it to
it's
him.
the performance is for like hotel guests, and the guy, it's like he's like the hotel MC is like, and this is the Baron von Samedi,
Yeah, he's
Lord
he's
of the Dead,
leading the floor show
Watch
at the
as he,
hotel. But he's
yeah.
actually
Watch
not-
as he
but
dances in a
actually
silly
is
manner.
also a henchman for a drug dealer, and he also has supernatural powers. He's pretty amazing. He's also 6'6", which I love because that makes him
yeah,
only an
and
inch shorter
another
than
character
me.
says he's 9 feet tall.
Yeah, he's he's wearing a giant white top hat and white tails half the time. He's got his face painted like a fucking skull. It's insane, and he's also my all-time favorite player
Oh,
to
that's sick.
my
This is,
favorite character to play
this
at
is
in
he.
GoldenEye.
Yeah, I always
a
love
good
I always
character.
love
Right.
picking him in
If you played
GoldenEye.
GoldenEye for N64, he
Yeah.
was a character.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
he was
a
an
pretty good
unlockable
crew, though.
character, and one of the most fun to play in multiplayer because even when someone killed you in the multiplayer, you could refute them by saying, "Well, you know, Baron Samedi is the man who cannot die."
And Bond in this movie really the only weakness of him is that he's never really much of a threat to Bond in this movie. But Bond also kills him several times, and he just doesn't ever die. So it's always a temporary thing with him. So he's pretty badass, and he also looks awesome. Yeah, big fan of Baron Samedi.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on and talk about some of the gadgets now, or gadgets / cars I have here. There's not that many cars of note.
Oh, this movie is you know how I remember we were talking about how great Bond is at skiing.
Mm-hmm.
Like in this movie, we see him out driving everyone in every possible way. First, they give him a double-decker bus against actual cars and motorcycles, an abandoned double-decker bus against actual cars and motorcycles. No problem.
No problem.
Then-
He's like sliding on water on the road.
Yeah,
Sick.
he's like, he's drifting in a double-decker bus as if it's easy. And then he has to thwart an entire gang in a propeller plane, a single-engine propeller plane, without leaving the ground.
And once again, they are driving cars,
And they're driving
and
real
he's like, and
cars.
he's driving a Cessna that won't even take off, and he's outrunning them and outmaneuvering them.
Oh yeah, and he's got like a beginner student in the side seat because he's
An old lady
hijacked
who's-
this
an
Cessna.
old
Who
lady
says
who's
one of my
waiting for
favorite
a
lines
pilot
in the whole
lesson.
movie.
Wait, what did she say?
She says he's like careening towards the doors, which he clearly is not gonna like clear, and she just looks out and goes, "Holy shit!"
And then there's the like 15-minute long boat chase in which Bond does everything you could possibly do in a speedboat.
Was it only 15 minutes? I felt like I fell
timed
asleep
it.
twice.
Yeah,
and
the boat chase is so long. The boat chase
Well,
is so long that I
The
timed
boat
it, and
chase,
it's about 15 minutes.
aka like the dip into like what's that show from the 70s? I'm blanking on the name. The two
mean from the
brothers.
80s?
They drive a car.
Oh,
Dukes
Dukes
of
of Hazzard.
Hazzard.
Yeah,
Dukes
it's
of
like Dukes of
Hazzard.
Hazards
it's
of
like
boats.
Dukes
yeah,
of
it
Hazards
is.
of boats.
It's exactly like that.
Smokey and the Bandit, like
Yeah.
the sheriff guy. Or
Yeah.
what's his name?
Oh,
Let's talk
now
about
this
it.
shit
This
is sheriff
also,
guy.
we should point out if we're going to talk about the sheriff at all, this predates, Buford. Who is it? Buford. I can't even remember the sheriff's name.
Boss Hog.
Buford T. Justice. No, it's no. The sheriff from Dukes of Hazzard is not Boss Hogg.
Oh, but the sheriff is
Pusser.
No, it's
I wrote it down somewhere.
I know this. Oh wow.
You guys have the internet. If you
Yeah,
want.
we are literally all sitting with computers in front of us.
Well, I've got my phone
This
and
is
my
not
computer in front of me.
1973.
Well, I'll talk while these guys look it up. So during this
Rufus-
car chase,
Rufus-
Roscoe P. Coltrane.
Coltrane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coltrane,
And
yeah.
Buford
Oh.
T. Justice is from Smoking the Bandit. And this guy is actually like several years before either
this
of them.
predates
Yeah.
both of those.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So
this guy
here's
is
the thing.
corny.
So this guy actually,
as
J.W.
fuck.
Pepper.
He's constantly got enough dip in his mouth where you can see the dip above his tooth line,
Damn.
like outside of the lip. Like imagine there's enough dip where you can see it from any angle from outside of someone's body. That he's got
On
that
the
much
count
dip
of
in his
three,
mouth.
can we all simultaneously do an impression of him? 1, 2, 3.
Oh,
my cousin Billy Bob.
coming here through here. We got
cousin Billy Bob.
Billy Bob will catch him
He got
all.
the fastest damn boat on the river.
Can't say that worked that well.
Yeah.
Brother-in-law Billy Bob, he's got the
But
fastest
it was
damn boat
fun.
on the river. So that's what he's like.
He is this
basically.
hillbilly sheriff who is incredibly racist.
Oh yeah.
And somehow manages to seem played out, even though he is the first of his kind, as far as
That's
I know.
incredible.
I
I
don't
can't
know.
believe that.
I do like how he's like looks like an idiot and is also kind of racist because
Yeah.
that's like kind of funny with this movie.
But in
'Cause,
this
like,
massive,
he looks dumb as hell, and then like when he tries to arrest the one black guy who's in the evil gang, he says he's like, I bet you've been done this before or something, like
Right, he's like,
and then he
I
just
bet
looks
this
like
isn't
a
your
total
first rodeo
doofus.
or
Yeah,
something.
I bet this isn't your first rodeo. And he just looks like a total dipshit the whole rest of
But
it.
he literally exists like just for this one sequence. It's like this
Yeah, he's
crazy
comic relief.
comical chase.
it's 15 minutes
Yeah.
long, and every couple of seconds they cut back to him so he can say something.
so we can
colorful.
laugh at him.
Now
Yeah.
it's a speedboat chase. Bond is on a boat and he's being chased by other
Other
henchmen
speedboats.
on speedboats. And this guy, J.W. Pepper is his name.
Mm-hmm.
He is on land driving a car, right?
Sheriff J.W. Pepper.
Yeah. So how would you combine these two elements? How is he like? If you were making this movie, like what decision would you make? How about let's jump the boats like over
The cars.
The
Yeah.
cars. Yeah. So
They set a world record.
Yeah. For
Wait,
what?
so where
For boat
where
jumping.
is this in New York?
No, this is now
It's
in
in
the
New
bayou
Orleans.
of
Oh,
Louisiana.
okay.
Yeah, and outside New Orleans on the river somewhere.
Okay.
So the movie starts in New York, and then it quickly moves. It goes to San Monique, and then to Louisiana, and then back to San Monique, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this big chunk of the movie, this whole action sequence, is in New Orleans, New Orleans, as they all
Nolens.
say.
Are we going to try to
Nolens?
summarize this plot briefly? Or are we going to spend 2 minutes on that?
We could. You want to give it a go? Or
Quick.
should Colin? I feel like Colin will nail it.
Okay, all right. Obviously, like we said, it starts out in James Bond's flat. They're like, what's his name got killed, what's his name got killed, and what's his name got killed. Each of them got killed in a different place. One's Harlem, or one's New York, sorry, at the UN. One's New Orleans, and one's San Monique. Go to New York, figure it out. He goes to New York. He tries to tail Kananga, but he ends up tailing Mr. Big. He doesn't know what's going on with that.
That's where he meets Solitaire.
That's where he meets Solitaire.
They capture him.
So then they capture him. Then they go to San Monique,
They
right?
take him out to an alley.
They capture him. He escapes.
Yeah, they capture him. He escapes. Then they go to San Monique. So he's investigating Kananga. Then he meets Solitaire again. They have sex. She loses the power, so he tries to.
You skipped Rosie Carver.
Oh yeah, Rosie Carver's in San Monique, and she like leads him astray, but she has to get killed because she's a double crosser and blah blah blah. Then he has sex with Solitaire. She loses the gift. She's got to go with him. They try to escape to New Orleans. Obviously, Mr. Big and Kananga have a lot of influence in New Orleans. Solitaire gets captured. Bond almost gets captured, or does get captured. He runs away. He escapes, gets captured, escapes. And then he does. That's exactly how it goes.
That's the entire plot of this movie. Bond gets captured, Bond escapes.
Yeah. He escapes, gets captured, escapes. Then he goes back to San Monique and tries to get Solitaire and thwart the plan. And then he thwarts the plan with, going in there hard, basically.
Felix is the CIA is going to blow up the poppy fields, and he goes back to rescue Solitaire, and then gets captured again, and then escape. Bond's plan in many of these movies is like, I don't know what to do, so I guess I'll just get captured and see what happens.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah. If you're really good at avoiding death, you just go in hard, you get captured, and you don't die, and you
He
keep
knows
going.
he's not going to get plugged in the head.
Well,
There's
just
going to
keep
be some
going.
elaborate
This
death
is not called the Dr. Kananga franchise. He does a pretty good job of just.
Are you saying he's aware of his own franchise?
He might be. He's like, this isn't your movie, guys. I'm sorry.
I don't want him to ever break the fourth wall again,
Maybe
though.
a
That upset
spin-off.
me.
Yeah, no, that really did bother you. But in the interim, at some point, we have a 15-minute boat chase that is just...
The boat chase is so long.
And how many times can you see a boat, like the boats like jump out of the water, and sometimes they land on land, and they just keep on skidding across the land until they reach further water somewhere
It's
else.
awesome, though.
And it would be awesome
Yeah.
if it happened, like the first time I was like, wow, that's awesome. And then the second time I'm like, oh, okay, well, I've seen that, but yeah. And then the third time I'm like, oh, geez, they're just going to keep on jumping boats out of water onto land and having them skid across it. Like,
No, every time I was like, whoa, that's awesome.
every time
I
it got a little less
gotta
effective,
say-
and finally I was like, Jesus, is this still going on? I went to the bathroom, I had a sandwich, and I'm back, and now there's still boat
Wait,
chases happening.
You had a sandwich in the bathroom?
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, that's
It's
pretty good.
disgusting.
Sandwich bathroom. Yeah, that's actually another DIY hipster trend.
Yeah.
Just eating, pooping out.
Yeah, so I
Perfect
saw a
efficiency.
YouTube video
Farm to
of
toilet.
how to install the sandwich board right here next to the TP dispenser.
Yeah, it just
And
folds down.
I'm just tuna salad and poo.
I can't eat any other way now.
Yeah, I can't eat any other way. I'll never go back to normal eating. Oh God.
What
Any
were we
other?
talking
Any other?
about?
We
Oh,
were
the
talking
boat
about
chase.
gadgets.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the boat
FX,
chase?
stunts, anything.
I gotta
feel
say, when I
we've
watched
moved
it
on to
this
stunts
time-
and action, so let's
Yeah.
keep going. Yeah.
When I watched it this time, I enjoyed the boat chase more than I've ever enjoyed it before. My memory, I've always liked this movie a lot. This is one of the ones I've seen the most. I always hated the boat chase because it's so damn long. Today, when I watched it, I was like, you know what? They really were going for it, and they did a lot of stunt work. And
Okay. Let me say a couple of things. I want to just shit all over this boat chase for just like 20
Please
seconds. It is so damn long. There are so many repeated beats. It is pretty much intolerable. But the worst part
Sheriff
of all,
Pepper ruins it.
The Sheriff Pepper. We're cutting back to Sheriff Pepper, who is constantly trying to ruin everything. And also,
What'd you say about me?
also, the conclusion of this boat chase is Bond gets into a boat duel with one of the bad guys who's also in a speedboat. And how does he resolve this? Well, the bad guy has a shotgun, and Bond has a tiny cup full of gasoline. Mm-hmm. And you would think a shotgun's got a range of like what 20 feet at least, right?
When you can drive a boat
And,
like
and a
James
tiny cup
Bond.
of gasoline has far less range. And somehow Bond manages to maneuver his boat close enough to this
There's
guy.
multiple circles around his boat.
And he splashes the guy in the face with gasoline. A man who's holding a shotgun and pointing the shotgun at him. He manages to quick draw him
and then
from
somehow
5 feet away.
aim his boat, spin around him till his boat is aimed. Oh, and then he
drives around again, and he
hits
drives
the
so
throttle.
close that he hits the throttle on the guy's boat, and then he navigates the boat.
He reaches in and hits
into
it?
the other man's boat
As he's driving
by.
Come on, that's
and then he swerves the dude's boat into something else, and it explodes. It is all preposterous. It is honestly one of the dumber James Bond stunt moments.
I've done a lot of boating personally, and I think it's totally believable.
All right, so I have an interjection. Who is writing that? Like, who was like, this is a dope idea?
Oh! Did you read the trivia about this?
No.
Oh, I read the trivia. The script originally said scene number 156, greatest boat chase ever. That's it.
But I would just like to say,
What?
Could I just make a plea out there for any of the potential screenwriters in the world, because I read a lot of scripts.
That way.
No. No, my plea would be, if something is stupid and doesn't make any sense, and people are telling you that, and you're like, no, we'll make it look good on the day. You'll make it look good in the execution. Don't believe those people. That is not true. If it looks stupid on the page, it's gonna be stupid in real life. I know it's hard to think of clever, smart, interesting, plausible ways to resolve action sequences. I know. I've been there. It's tough to think of new ideas. But do the work, guys. Because it's awful. When it looks dumb on the page, it's going to look dumb on the screen, and this looks dumb on the screen.
Okay, but even worse, that wasn't anything on the page.
No, somebody after the fact batted around some ideas, and they came up with that, and they were like, "Trust me, it won't look stupid when we'll pull it off."
Have we used the shotgun yet? No, let's use that. Okay,
No, it's tragic. I will say, stunts that I love, though, there were a lot of good stunts in this. The one where Bond's chauffeur gets killed right at the beginning.
Yeah,
his
Harlem.
chauffeur gets shot on the head as he's being driven in New York City
By the Pimpmobile.
By the Pimpmobile, yes, by Whisper in the Pimpmobile. His chauffeur gets
from a dart out of the side view
mirror. It's a cool gag, and then the chauffeur's dead, and Bond has to climb into the front seat and navigate the car, and it goes careening across lanes of traffic on the highway, and it's pretty badass.
I will
Isn't he
say,
on the Brooklyn Bridge or something?
I don't know. I thought it was in Harlem.
It looked like the Cross
They're
Bronx
next
Express
to
or
a
something.
bridge.
Yeah.
I will say, as I was watching, especially this part, I really felt, I don't know if it's because I was watching the Blu-ray, but it looked really good, and I was thinking the filmmaking style of this really felt like the 70s. We've moved on officially from the feel of the 60s kind of filming style.
I read they switched back from Panavision to flat.
Yeah, and there were less, and that's a big part of it. And there were less elaborate sets. There were some really good elaborate sets, like we've seen in the past. There's a lot of good location shooting here. The alley in Harlem where they go to kill Bond was one of my favorite.
Well, did you read that bit
ever.
of trivia that Harlem at the time was a really seedy,
they had to pay off an actual gang,
gang, and then they ran out of money, and they were like, "Yo, can we still film here?" And they were like, "You better
you
get
should
the
probably wrap it up." But the double-decker bus chase was awesome and had a good ending.
It was good because it wasn't too long. That one.
Yeah.
So the double-decker bus clearly, the top gets blown off of it, so it becomes a single-decker bus,
if you will.
You will. He goes under a low bridge.
And I thought the Cessna, the chase of the airfield, was really
also good because it wasn't
done.
too long.
Yeah, it wasn't too long, and they thought of really clever stuff. I mean, the plane was driving around, navigating through other planes, and I thought it was really amazing how well they choreographed.
I just thought it was confusing that they imply that he ended up in the same spot where he stole the plane from originally. So that means he knocked all those guys unconscious with all this bullshit.
I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. I will. My favorite thing in the entire movie was the running across the crocodile stunt. So at one point,
which is the most famous part.
He captures James Bond, and he takes him to this alligator farm where he lost his arm, and he puts him on this rock in the middle of a pond where the alligators and crocodiles are closing in on him. They're all climbing up there. They're real animals. They look badass
and they
big,
do a good job.
Scary.
I think crocodiles usually in movies don't seem that scary. They're just they always kind of show them in the water
and they move pretty slow and everything.
Well, that's because they waited till after to tell him they could have killed you at any time.
Yeah, he's on this rock and they're really climbing up on that rock,
and they're surrounding him,
and they're moving fast, and he's throwing meat at them and stuff.
Yeah. And eventually he realizes that he can get over across the water if he just runs across the backs of these alligators.
They line up perfectly.
Which sounds really dumb. I'm sure what's in your head is this look cheesy and dumb. It looks like he is legit running on.
Because guess what? He really did.
Yeah, it was a stunt
guy.
It's actually
what?
Another record.
The guy who owns the crocodile farm did the stunt. And the reason the villain is named Kananga is the guy who owned the crocodile farm's name was Kananga.
They liked him
loved the
so
name.
much.
Yeah.
Like he was like a cool dude, apparently.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they were like they found this
Kinda have to
crocodile
be a
farm
cool
because
dude.
the
He
sign
owns a crocodile farm.
because the
What's it
sign
called?
out front said trespassers will be eaten.
Yeah.
And they're like, maybe
They're
we
like,
should maybe we
need
should
the
see about
sign,
this.
We
Yeah.
need the farm. We need this guy that.
So
can
then they
put
meet
up the
Mr.
sign.
Kananga, and he's like, "Yeah, I got a crocodile farm, and you can come up in
and
here
I'll
with
run
James
on the
Bond,
back.
and it's
you want me
gonna
to
be
do
sweet."
stunts? Fuck
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I can run on
the backs.
I've been running on the backs of them. I can do it.
It should look cheesy, but it's
He
actually
probably did
awesome.
not sound like that, by the way.
There aren't a lot of fights in this movie. We've seen a lot of good like fist fights in some other ones.
There's
some
one
cheesy,
fight in the
sped up
beginning that
ones.
was pretty cheesy. When the two guys are taking him into the alleyway to kill him, and he
Yeah.
grabs the
Fire
emergency
and
escape.
knocks
Yeah.
out.
that
And
doesn't make
also,
sense.
Baron
No.
Samedi. Once again, my only complaint with Baron Samedi is not very threatening.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and he gets into a machete fight with Bond that lasts about
2.5 seconds.
2.5
I'd say,
seconds,
yeah.
I think. Yeah, Bond
He just shoves him into a box of
Bond
snakes.
kills him so quickly. It's just like the second time Bond has also blown his head off at one point already. in
Yeah,
this-
but
in
that
this
was a
movie.
mannequin. That was a fake.
Yeah,
Or was
although a
it?
mannequin with eyes that roll when he gets shot in the head. But
It
the
was
one
kind of a cool effect.
the one fight that was pretty good was at the end, which we missed, was after Bond foils the plans and he and Solitaire are going to run off together on a train.
Teehee comes
And-
back.
He comes back and breaks into their train compartment, and they have. I think this is the second time we've seen Bond.
It's a train fight.
in a train. In a train. Yeah, the
Just
famous
like
Bond
Russia with
train
Love.
fight. Yeah,
It's
and-
also now a classic Bond trope of like they think they're safe and you think the movie's over.
And they're
on a
There's,
train.
like a villain you forgot
They're on
about.
a train.
henchman
They want to
comes
have
up.
sex, and
and
someone's
then
trying
here's
to
the
kill
henchman, and that was actually a really good fight. They didn't speed it up like they've been doing for a lot of these other ones. It was a good choreographed close quarters fight.
It made sense too. It made
Yeah.
logical sense. Like he's got this hook thing, and then he like tears his clothes off, and you see kind of the mechanics of how it works, and it's like these. what
Yeah,
are those
like
called?
tinsel
Like,
wire things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he grabs like a
Toenail clipper or
or whatever, and he starts snipping them, and it makes the thing like
Lock up.
lock like this. Yeah. And so he locks the claw to the window, and then he flips him over the window, and he rips off of his arm.
Meanwhile, when Teehee came in, he had flipped Solitaire up in her like folding
yeah.
bed.
I don't like that part.
She was in the upper bed, and then when Bond flips her down, she doesn't realize that he's been in this fight for his life this whole time.
All the
Yeah.
windows
and
are
she
broken.
just thinks
like,
he's
they
she
don't-
thinks
She
just
thinks
thinks
it's
he's
a
fucking with
bad
her.
joke.
And she's like, yeah, that wasn't that funny, but she's not really that mad at him.
Yeah,
It's like,
I don't like
that's
that.
a
but,
deal breaker. Come on, lady, have some self-respect.
but like the claw is still hanging from the like window too.
No, he threw it. He throws it off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but
And he shuts the
this is
window.
while he's talking to her. He throws.
It doesn't
the
make
claw
sense
off.
because they break several windows, but then that one that's not broken that he threw him out of, when he closes it, it becomes
Yeah.
like silent. But they forgot about like all the other broken windows that are all around them.
Yeah, I mean this scene is not the best scene in the movie,
But it was a good fight.
But it was a pretty good.
So let's
fight.
talk about the ending, the end sequence on San Monique. We kind of are getting there. He kills Baron Samedi. Then he goes inside the hideout. They blow up the poppy fields. Felix Leiter, once again, played by a different guy.
Yeah, this guy is the only guy who will play Felix Leiter twice.
Yes.
Until our friend Jeffrey Wright.
Well, yes.
Jeffrey Wright silences.
Show's over.
He's got
he's
that
here.
effect on
No.
people.
No, he's not here.
Oh, what's up, buddy?
Oh, so we should talk about, if we're going to set up the ending, we should talk about the gadgets a little bit, only because
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
freaking
It
magnet
plays so
watch
important.
comes
Yeah.
in, the magnet watch and the gas gun, which never gets explained.
Yeah,
But
that was confusing.
So James Bond in the opening scene has a magnetic watch that M gives him shit about because
There's no Q in this movie. Let's talk about
Yeah,
that.
so
Yeah.
M gives him the watch because Q's not in this movie. Because
Moneypenny,
Q was-
Moneypenny gives him the watch.
Oh,
and
Moneypenny.
says
Yes.
Q branch got
God,
finished.
I feel really bad about forgetting that that's who gave
Yeah,
him the watch.
you of all people.
Yeah, come on,
dare
man.
I?
But she says, "Oh, Q Branch got done fixing your watch," and M's giving him shit because he's like, "Q Branch has better things to do than fix your watch."
You always give
So
me the
James
time
Bond
of day.
shows off that the watch is
He
like
doesn't say that.
super magnetic, and he demonstrates the magnetism of the watch, and then later unzips what's her name's dress with it.
Oh,
and he says,
did you
"It's
read the-
sheer magnetism, dog,"
I read
lit.
that took 29 takes.
I'm sure
which
it
is
did.
which is
These
embarrassing
poor
and
girls
horrible.
think you
think
can
I
just
need
do
to
it
do
in
this
one
again.
take. Yeah. You gotta do it a bunch.
But anyways, the
He's got
magnetic
Sean
watch
Connery's voice.
comes into play again and again.
Can I
and-
do another take for me? For me.
And at the end
No,
of the
but
thing,
they attached a wire to the zipper, and he was supposed to pull the wire at the
So he's
same
got a watch,
time
right?
as
And he's
the
got
watch
his arm,
moves,
he's
right?
hugging the girl. She's got a long zipper like going down the back of her dress. And with his watch, he just goes like this.
Yeah.
And it pulls the.
Because it's a magnet watch.
It's a magnet watch.
They couldn't just have like a grip do that?
Well, no, that's what they
Well,
did.
that's what they
Oh,
did.
I thought
but
he
he
was
couldn't
trying to
move
do
his
it.
arm at
But
the
they couldn't
same
get the
time
timing
as
right.
the
Okay.
pull
Timing.
of the. You know what I mean? Because he has to. The
It's
grip
gotta
has to
be.
pull the zipper at the same rate
And
that
it
he moves
even
his
kind of
arm.
slips up at one point.
Yeah, it does.
goes faster than his hand.
Yeah.
So
but
their
like,
best
wow.
version in
But that's
29
because
tries wasn't
the
perfect.
Wasn't
curve
that
of the
good.
woman also comes into play.
Oh.
Because the zipper doesn't have the same tension throughout the entire back of the woman because of the hip and
You've clearly thought about this.
Yeah, a lot. He probably imagined it was money.
Colin has diagrams here, and they're pretty elaborate. It's like they're stick figures, but he really got into it.
So the watch, and let's get to the only other.
yeah.
There's really only other one.
Back
one
on
other
track.
gadget.
Yeah, there's a gas pellet gun, which if you shoot this, it's sort of like a regular gun, but the bullet, if you shoot it into something, expands with gas. And Kananga demonstrates it by shooting the couch that Whisper is sitting on, which then inflates like a parade balloon, like a Macy's parade balloon,
And explodes.
that part's hilarious.
And then at the end, Bond, who has used the magnet watch, he uses like 3 times in the movie, right? Like they get a lot of play out of
Uses
this
it several
watch.
times.
The watch,
And,
yeah.
and then when he and Solitaire are tied up and they're going to be fed to sharks, he uses the watch to attract a gas pellet from the gun. And then he uses the watch, which has a buzzsaw feature suddenly, which was not introduced or set up before, to cut himself loose. He swings to the shore, and then he and Kananga fight. It's not a great fight.
They fall into the
Fall in the
water.
water. The shark's going to eat him. And he jams a gas pellet into Kananga's mouth, and Kananga inflates like a balloon.
Floats to the ceiling.
Floats to the ceiling and explodes.
And
Which is,
when it
I
hits
think,
the
is
ceiling.
awesome. Considering his alter ego is called Mr. Big, that he inflates to death.
If you when
Well, he did have an inflated sense of self.
Yeah,
that is exactly
That's
the
what Bond
cheesy
says.
quip. One of
He
one
waits
of
and he
many.
turns-
He really
It
says
turns over to Solitaire.
In a line that makes no sense, like he doesn't really answer the question that's being asked. Someone says, "Where is Kananga?" And he said, "He always
He always
did have
an
an
inflated
inflated
opinion of himself. Yeah, it's
Yeah, okay, that's great, but where is he? Like he didn't answer the
yeah.
question.
Also, this man inflates into like twice his normal size and then bursts,
No
and there is
blood.
no blood
No
anywhere.
blood.
But it was pretty cool. I thought it looked good.
what I like to think
like
is that the
absurd.
gas pellet is so powerful that it like literally like particulizes the blood into like not even being liquid anymore.
Colin also
So
has
it
some
was like
diagrams
vapor.
about this.
Diagram number 2.
We could do a
Please
whole
refer to
segment
it-
like the
please-
mathematics and physics of James Bond.
Please refer to
Yeah.
Appendix
By
C
Colin.
in your pamphlet.
I think we could have a section.
A section.
So that's how the whole thing ends, and then we have
We
the
have
fight
to
on
we
the
have to stop
train,
making this podcast because I ran out of graph paper.
Oh god! This was not one of the cheesy Roger Moore ones, but there were an absurd number of like quips and puns and innuendos and whatever.
We did. My eyes didn't quite roll into the back of my head.
Right.
I give this like a half glaze, like one of these.
They did have in the car that he gets picked up from the airport in. There's a cigarette lighter that's also a speaker, and he says, and Felix is talking to him on the other end of it, and he says, "Hey, Felix Leiter."
Genuine Felix Leiter.
It's like he practically slaps the guy in the back, and the guy like sort of gives him the good-natured, "Yeah, I guess that's kind of funny."
I liked it. I would have laughed in
Two
real
best
life.
lines are not from Bond. One is the "Whose funeral is it? Yours." That's a great line.
That's awesome.
And then the other one is, "Hey man, for $20, I'll take you to a Ku Klux Klan cookout." That's great.
What
Dude,
about
the
Holy
cyber-
Shit?
Holy shit! Also, not
Yeah.
from
My,
Bond.
my favorite one was the "You wouldn't kill me after what we've just done. I certainly wouldn't have killed you before." Just terrible.
The guy who says the KKK line, his sideburns are some of the all-time 70s
Oh, he's got
sideburns.
Freddie Boom
I've
Boom
ever
Washington
seen.
sideburns.
They
He's
literally
got-
go into his mouth.
into his mouth.
They're
somehow.
amazing.
It's
Oh.
like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like comes to a head right here.
For those of you who can't see at home, Matt's pointing to his mouth.
I'm pointing to my mouth. It's where the food goes.
They also have a couple of lines when he says to Rosie, "I'm sure we'll be." She's saying that she's not very experienced, and he goes, "Oh, I'm sure we'll be able to lick you into shape."
Oh, yeah.
And I looked that up because I was like, "That is
Lick?
not a real phrase."
Oh, yeah, that's a real
And
phrase.
it turns out it's a real phrase, but I was like, I never heard that before. That's just now you're just being dirty.
That was pretty
Ooh,
raunch.
Bond, you nasty.
He also says
Bond,
no, he
you
also at one
nasty
point
hoe.
says no sense in going off half cocked as an innuendo. So it's some classic
That one's
some classic Bond innuendos.
But there's nothing There's nothing worse than the comic relief they're trying to do with the Sergeant Pepper guy.
Oh, it's terrible.
It changed the tone of the movie for me. Like it really,
Or, Sheriff Pepper.
for a third of the movie, it like steps into this nether realm where it's like J.W. Pepper's movie, and Bond is like he doesn't speak.
That's why
like
the whole script writing thing is such a fail. It's like you didn't write this into the script, so this entire thing is made up by the fucking stunt boat drivers, basically, and this one actor you hired to be comic relief,
who I think was from New York, actually, but he ended up spending his entire career playing Texas sheriffs because of this one
or
role.
New Orleans, yeah.
So this movie sounds pretty good, actually.
We're just about done. I think
Yeah,
we
I think
hit
we're-
like
hit
every
our double-
beat.
double
We
step.
forgot one thing, and it's the final shot of the movie, which is
Baron Samity's on the front of the train.
After being killed several times, he's still alive.
And he laughs.
Guess what he says?
He's amazing. I think they should bring him back.
They wanted
They
to.
should.
I read that the plan was to bring him back in another movie, but they just
all-time
never.
all-time great Bond
I
character.
thought it was notable. I read the script originally is that Solitaire is a black woman and Rosie is a white woman. And because they wanted to release the movie in South Africa and Japan in
Australia.
in 1974,
They had to change it.
they had to change it because interracial
They wouldn't allow. They wouldn't even
relationships would
show.
not be allowed. They would not be able to release.
I also
the movie.
read that Yaphet Kotto was told not to come to the premiere.
Yeah, he wasn't at the premiere, and there was something else that he couldn't do.
Yeah.
That they told him we don't want you to do this because
Don't promote the movie, but it's interesting because that's all
and
very.
he was great. He was really good.
Yeah,
That's
he
all.
was.
That's all very accurate, and I can understand. That's basically that's all a marketing decision. I do think it was interesting that they made this movie based on this novel because explicitly they were like. Blaxploitation is, blaxploitation
Right.
movies were coming out, and they were like,
This
"This,
is a
thing
direct
now.
result
This is
of,
popular."
Shaft.
And
Right.
they said, we want to make a black James Bond movie that will appeal to these audiences that are going to blaxploitation films. So we should absolutely knock them for bowing to making concessions to these racist views of the time to make it more sellable. But we should also acknowledge that at a time when this was kind of a revolutionary thing. This movie
for
was
sure.
black as hell.
Yeah.
There is, it's Bond, Moneypenny, Solitaire, and
Felix
M,
Leiter.
and Felix.
Yeah.
And those are all the white. Every other actor in this movie is black. There are times when there are so many black faces on the screen. And I'm just like, wow, this is like a mainstream Hollywood blockbuster movie.
Yeah.
With just like rooms full of black people playing every character you can imagine.
So much so that it goes to like a comical level where like at one point they find his lab, Kananga's lab, and they go in and like all the henchmen, like everyone is black.
Oh yeah,
it's just like
and then when they're all wearing red shirts with blue
like
pants.
Super
Yeah.
Mario.
Yeah, but it's I mean they leaned
that
into
is
it
why
really hard.
that is why I wish they not only had Kananga have the heroin plan, but also the Blackbeard's treasure because like that would have been awesome. But maybe that would have been over the top. But I think it would have been good.
We make fun of Bond movies a lot for the misogyny and for the lack of inclusion. I think they were trying to do something here. I mean, and it could just be that they saw something popular and they wanted to cash in. But also, they
Which
did
becomes
make
a trend later
They
on.
did make a movie that was was really very for its time for what it was for its budget.
Far out.
It was
Did you say far out?
It was far out.
Yeah, it was pretty far out. No, it had like some. I mean, it's only like you can't release it in these countries, so you have to change it. It's like,
Well,
but
they had
we
to cut
wanted to
because,
do it
because Bond does have a relationship with Rosie. He has sex with her several times.
and
He
they
kisses her on screen.
and
they
they
had
to release
they had
it
to
in
cut
one
those out
country,
in
they had to cut it.
South
yeah.
Africa was the one they had to cut those
Yeah.
scenes from, and I think maybe Australia too. Which, given the politics of those countries at those times, that should not be surprising. Which obviously everyone knows is terrible now, but
But they went for it, and they were willing to go for it. So that's good.
good for them.
Kudos.
We ready for
Our rating system.
our rating
Yeah.
system?
wrap
Which
it up.
I've gone back and looked, and I would probably make some adjustments if I could.
Well, before we jump into this, I think we need to acknowledge something I tried to get into on the last episode, but we kind of like glazed over it. And now I finally did the math. I put it all together, and I want to go over what I sent you guys earlier. I emailed.
I'm
it.
looking at
Our
it. I'm looking at it right now.
Our
I
records,
need to find.
our
it.
voting records.
I'm looking at it. What do you want? What do you want to know?
Don't hold me to any of this.
So Dr. No averaged a 006.
Okay, so what I want to do is
Oh, okay.
consolidate our rankings of every Bond movie by a particular actor. So, like, let's do all the. Obviously, we can't really do George Lazenby.
Well, I think On Her Majesty's Secret Service is my least favorite George Lazenby movie.
but also my favorite.
Yeah, agreed.
I know Colin's favorite, but
Yeah, I do feel bad. I hated on him really bad. I listened to it again,
sure
and I
did.
hated on him real bad. And I'm sorry, but
He had it coming.
but that movie's
Matt will continue
that
to
I will
defend it.
I did say he ruined the movie for me. That movie does have a lot of problems that aren't him.
Yeah, that's
so,
true. That is true.
I will say that. And
In fairness, it was
In fairness.
bad all around.
yeah,
So moving on to our Sean Connery movies, we had a tie for 4th place. 3 movies. We had From Russia with Love,
That was my fault.
Thunderball, and You Only Live Twice.
I don't know how Thunderball got in there. I thought we all hated that, but
I did the average.
didn't hate it enough.
Matt has like a closet scuba thing.
Oh boy.
He just likes moving
sorry, I
slowly and
love it.
silently
It's fun.
underwater for several minutes.
Wait, so those are all for the 4th
for
Yeah,
4th place.
They're all
Yeah.
runner-up.
So yeah, right.
I'm glad I
runners-up.
overrated From Russia with Love so high because it doesn't deserve to be worse than Thunderball, that's for sure.
3rd place was Doctor No,
Okay.
the first entry in the series. We all seem to enjoy it. It brought a lot to the series that made it prolong. Go on for so long. Let's see. Diamonds Are Forever was rated 2nd.
And
Which
if
I think is pretty
and if-
interesting.
listen,
Heavily boosted by someone's rating. I can't remember who.
if I only rated that a 6, and if I had to do over again, I probably would have bumped it up 1.
Colin
that's
gave it a
good.
9.
Yeah, I know. I'm having some solidarity with Colin there. I think
Okay,
if
so that
anything,
was 2?
I undercut
So
that one.
first place, of course, was Goldfinger.
Yep.
It's like going into it, that Goldfinger is the best Sean Connery movie, and like we didn't defy anything here.
We're not breaking new ground.
We're not breaking
here.
new ground.
Honestly, if I had gone into it though, I would have guessed I would have rated it a 9 or a 10, and I think I gave it an 8.
Yeah.
And that surprised me only because it was dated in a lot of ways. It did run long a little for me, And
We all gave it an 8.
Yeah, but I mean that's a very high score. But I would have guessed if you had asked me beforehand, I would have rated.
I'm
it
moving
higher.
towards a theory here that I think you guys might find interesting, and I think it's going to validate our choice of making this ranking system the way it is with the 0010, 001, whatever. So check this out. So the average of all these movies, Dr. No averaged out, when we add all our scores up and average it out, it's 006. From Russia with Love is 005. Goldfinger is 008. Whatever. They're all 053. Diamonds Are Forever is 007. And I'm realizing something. Diamonds Are Forever might be like a great example of like a perfect Bond movie in a way. It's fun, but also like kind of corny. It had a little bit of everything. I think we all really enjoyed Diamond. So my theory is that the movies that average out to 007 will
Are
be
better
like,
than the ones even
Or the
higher.
true
Yeah.
Bond.
are the
That's-
true Bond movies.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting.
We'll see how it
interesting
goes.
Theory,
Yeah.
and honestly, I do think if I had the rating to do over again, I probably would have bumped Diamonds Are Forever up to a 007.
Well, then that
But
would
I'm not
screw up
going
the
to.
average.
I'm
Yeah,
not going.
that
I'm
totally
not
fucks
going
with
to. I'm not going to. I stand by my rating. What I feel is bad is though I give everything a 006.
If you want to work in this science lab, you wear a red shirt and blue pants.
All right, so then what are we doing with this movie?
Do we give it a license to watch?
Yes.
I think for sure this is like
Easily.
one of the better.
Do we do
mean-
the license to watch? Do we do our ratings first and then the license?
Oh, I thought we did the ratings. Sorry, we skipped it. Yeah,
we
ratings.
skipped
Let's do it.
This is a 9 for me, almost a 10, but the boat chase is so long. The boat chase just I really want to give it a 10, but the boat chase it's just really I would give it like a 9.5, but
God,
I
you
know
are a
we don't
soft
do
touch.
halfers.
So we got a 9.
Yeah, we got a 9.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. That Mr. Big, he's like
9's a good mark.
Take him out back and waste him.
Yeah, 9 is a good mark in case. For those of you out there who don't know our rating system out of 10, 9 is a good mark.
I like this one a lot. I always like this one.
I think
Bond
it's-
in Harlem is like a classic
It's a
juxtaposition.
very solid entry. It's got memorable chases and locations. It's got some really top-notch baddies. I love Baron Samedi. It's good gadgets, but not gadget-dependent. Good jokes, but not too jokey. In the end, Kananga and his whole plan in the finale are a little underwhelming, and Moore isn't Connery. But this one holds up really well. So I gave it a 006, and honestly, I couldn't rate it higher than Diamonds Are Forever, which is why I'm sort of locked into the 006 in this one.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just writing these down for once. So
only-
that's a 006.
I just when
Writing
I
them
read
in the
that
calculator
Blackbeard's
because you're
treasure
not going to
thing,
be able to do the math.
What are you
on your
doing?
own.
No,
You're just
I'm
trying to make it average to what
I'm
you
not
want it
doing
to
the
average
average
to.
right now.
He's trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Like, what do I want this to average to?
So what do we
Let's
got,
see.
Matt?
I wrote that this movie was fun, exciting, different. It was fresh. It had realistic action sequences, a lot of new and interesting, unique characters, and fun in different locations. Plus, the song is awesome, and the runtime didn't feel too long. This is a great movie. I gave it a 008.
Wow.
Ooh, this is going to be a good ranking for this thing.
Yep.
God,
So that is a 7, right? Or like
6 plus 8 plus 9.
Man, I wish I had
is
teachers like you when I was in
23.
school.
divided by 3?
Divided by
so it's
3.
going to have like a half E in there.
23 divided by 3
Well,
is...
I rounded up.
Yeah. Oh, you go up. So
Oh,
it's
you
a
round.
7.
What's 23 divided by 3? 21 divided by
that's gonna-
3 is, what? Like...
It's going to be 27. It's going to be a 7 point something, right?
7.6.
Hang on, I got
7.666.
Oh, it's a round up.
I think it's going to be a double.
So it'll be
Oh,
double
so
08,
it's a
yeah.
008. Yep.
So
Well, for those of you who this means something to, which is probably nobody,
hello.
The Baron's riding the train laughing
so
somewhere.
once again, License to Watch.
Yes.
Issued.
Issued.
Yeah, issued.
100%.
Triple issue.
Yeah, one of the best Moore ones, I think.
I feel like I issue one.
Yeah.
Why
You
the
guys
hell
just
not?
talking about
You
it.
love the movie
Yeah,
just
well,
from our
that's cool.
explanation of it.
He just loved that we were sort of not meandering all over the place with our.
No, you guys did good.
You know, when you were young and
Your heart was in
your
open
heart
book.
was an open book, you used to say, live, let live.
You know you did. You know you did.
You
know you did.
But in this ever-changing world in which we live in, you got to give it a cry. Live and let die. Bum, bum.
All right, cool. That's our show. Thanks for listening. If you like the show, please rate us 5 stars on iTunes and give us a shout out on social media. Please subscribe, get your friends to subscribe, and get your friends' friends to subscribe, and help us spread the ever-loving word of Bond. Thanks for listening.
James Bond will return in.
Spy Love Me, right? No.
No, The Man with the Golden Gun.
Man with the Golden Gun.
Ooh, Man with the Golden
that's
Gun.
so good.
By the way, I think the same director as this one, and a few others. Goldfinger among them.
Guy Hamilton?
Yeah, Guy Hamilton.
Guy.
What a guy!
That
What a
guy.
guy! Oh, Goldfinger, Diamonds Are Forever. This Guy Hamilton's got a really high ranking in our opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, he's Goldfinger, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Guy
And
Hamilton's
Diamonds Are
killing
Forever.
it.
And this, yeah.
He's killing it. Dude's awesome. Dude's a boss.
He's doing well in this podcast.
Bam, bam.